out of her, my people. Spiggity biggity biggity bang bang spit bang. Reggie man I come to bring them judgment again. Spiggity biggity 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 bang, bada bang bang, bada bang. Hey, on the streets my brother's dying, and I hear the mothers crying, crying out. And the way that things are going, it seems the beast is going down.
Of course, today we are yet on another adventure, and this time we are in Limuru. It's in Kiambu County, and we're here to see a very special farmer in the name of Sylvia Kuria. So she'll be able to share with us a little bit of her experience. She's been doing organic farming for quite a while, so it'll be a good experience to be able to know her journey and be able to learn a thing or two. Of course, we've been able to sort of have a tour of a farm. You've seen a thing or two of what she's doing. Now I think it's the best time we get to know her, understand her, and exactly know why she does what she does, and share with us a thing or two of her experience while she's doing organic. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Sylvia Kuria. Asante sana.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us. It's been a learning experience, because we've done this, with different farmers, and we've seen why they do what they do, and I must appreciate that we've learned a lot of things when we were in the field.
Yes.
So just before we talk more about what you do, it's fair, I guess, you give people an overview of who you are and what you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a city girl. I was actually born and raised in Nairobi City.
Okay.
But then what used to happen was, like during the holidays, we're always at my grandma's place.
Yeah.
That's where I started with my love for agriculture.
Okay.
And I remember being very young, 7, 8 years old, going with a djembe and digging and learning how things grew.
Yeah.
So fast forward to when I got to campus, I wasn't able to get to study about agriculture, but I did more about social work.
Yeah.
But at the back of my mind, I always knew one day, given a chance to have some soil, I would plant something.
Yeah.
So many years later, we got a chance to move to Limuru as a family. So we came and settled here, and we are in Ndeya, which is the semi-arid, dry part of Limuru.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Limuru has a cooler place in Tigoni and Gesha.
Yeah.
It's cooler on the other side, but here it's semi-arid. And we said, you know what, let's just try it out. Because it being dry, many people had told us that it may not be able to work.
Okay.
But we said, let's give it a go. And then being a very warm and dry area, what happened was when I started farming, we had a lot of pests and diseases that were affecting us. And the usual thing, as most farmers would do, you take a sample and take it to the agrovet, and you're given a solution for it.
Exactly.
And you're told you need to spray it, and then the pest or whatever problem you have should go in a few days. And it happened, but I was not comfortable because I kept wondering, how does this thing work this fast?
Yeah.
And then when I did a bit more research, I realized that many of the pesticides and fungicides that are like not natural, they are not very good for you.
Yeah.
And even if they give this, I don't know what they call the level where they say, that the food is safe after a particular time of spraying.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it's the PHI post-harvest interval. Yeah, the post-harvest interval. They would say it's 4 days. And I was like, there's no way something that I put on a mask to spray after 4 days will be safe for consumption. So I learned that there's actually an alternative, which is organic agriculture.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of reading and research, and also went out to visit organic farms to learn how it's done.
Yeah.
So I moved from being a conventional farmer to organic in a very short period of time. I think I only did the conventional farming for about a year, and I thought it's not working. And I started as a small garden. So I had a little kitchen garden, and I thought that would be the best way for me to learn. Because being a city girl, I wasn't able to identify many crops on the farm.
Yeah.
Like I would confuse carrots for dania, beans for weeds, I didn't know. I thought managos were beans.
Wow. Okay.
I was very green. I just had the passion, but I didn't know, how to, how to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember even one funny thing when the lady was helping me dig. I never knew whether you should dig going forwards or backwards,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did it as a child, but as an adult, so many years passed, and So I just learned from scratch, to be honest. And I realized that my little garden, maybe it was about 3 by 3 meters square, was able to feed us all the greens we needed all year round with onions. Just your daily greens. And a few tomatoes here and there, And I realized actually with a small space, you can actually grow a lot of food. So I was very proud of myself because I was self-sustainable. And I was able now to use the bigger field, which was only half an acre, to grow my grains. So my maize and beans, my peas would grow out there, and the daily greens would be next to the house. So I got interest from friends who wanted to have vegetables. That's when I started the basket scheme. So I would put the vegetables together, and then I would go and sell it to my friends in the city. And then that's how the business has grown. And then now we have this farm here in Deya.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's an amazing story because there's a thing or two bits that I can pick from your story. Sort of kind of similar to mine. I was also raised with my grandparents, so I learned a thing or two from them in terms of farming and what they were doing. Later on, I was actually then redirected to organic farming specifically. I did it when I was young, but I didn't really know what it was all about.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I could see they wouldn't spray or such a kind of things. But now, it's also interesting you talked about self-taught. It's something that you learned yourself. So it's also something that I've been doing over this period of time. And something very interesting, you're saying that you were green when you were starting. And at this level where you are right now, you have amazing amount of knowledge in terms of what to do, what to grow. You have an understanding of how nature works. Something that I don't see with my conventional friends in terms of farming. So for you, how did it come now you settled on organic specifically? Is it something you thought, or is it something that came to your mind once, or is it something that was there for quite a long time? How did it exactly come when you decided to venture into organic farming?
Okay, one was the safety for my health and the health of my family. So I thought I wanted to know what they are eating because my children were very young. So that's when they are eating their fast food. So I thought, I really need to know what they are eating, and it has to be safe. So that was my first conviction, that I want to feed my family the very best. And then beyond that was that when I was selling the vegetables, my conviction, even from my faith, is that, you need to, or rather I thought that, I need to be able to give people the very best and the safest food. So people know the source of their food. And that's how we've actually got clients. And through the ups and downs, you'll find even sometimes we don't have enough vegetables. But whenever we have them, our clients will always buy from us because there's a trusted source of where they're getting their food from. Another reason why I did organic, or rather said that I want to do organic, was because of future generations. I want my children to be able to still come on farm on this land. What you find in Kenya now, it's very common that people are only leasing land for a period of 5 to 7 years, because beyond that, the produce will dwindle. Because of the chemicals that have been put in over the years, makes the soil too acidic, so the plants are not able to uptake the nutrients. So they have to keep moving from farm to farm. And they would always say, oh no, this farm is not good. Everyone wants to lease on virgin land. And we don't have the patience to actually grow the soil. So for me, it's been very challenging, but I'm growing the soil for me, because I'm still young. I'll be able to enjoy the produce of the land for a number of years, God willing. But also my children will even find the soil in a much better state than it is today, and grandchildren. So even as I come to the farm, I come with my children. they know how to grow organic food, and they keep asking, even when we go out there. They're like, Mom, is this good for us or not? So they're already aware. And hopefully, as they grow and they are taking over the work, they'll be able to even teach the next generation. So I think for me, when you do organic agriculture, it's actually the only sustainable way of farming. And also, when you think about the African continent, when you talk about food security, why is it we don't have enough food? Why is it our soils are not producing anymore? Imagine if we have, millions of farmers just saying we're going back to build our soils. We'll always be food secure.
Interesting. It's a good question you've raised. I mean, food security is something we've been talking for quite a while now. We've seen also the governments, even dedicating time and efforts in terms of it's part of their Big Four
agenda. Yes.
So something interesting you've mentioned, it's about the challenges you faced, and the challenges in the organic sector. Can you sort of take us through those kind of challenges? Because I'm figuring out there are people who want to come and venture into organic farming. So for you, what are some of those challenges that you encountered when you were starting organic?
Okay, I think for one is that you have to have the patience, which I find is very difficult with most farmers, and it's extremely understandable because when you go into a particular field of business, you're doing it to get a good return. You're not doing it just for anything. So you find with many farmers, they want to get a good return at the end of the season. So you want to plant your acre of onions or cabbages, make your money and plant another season and keep doing that over and over again. So one of the things about organic agriculture is, do you have the time to build your soil? When you think about how long it takes to build the soil, it will take you about 3 to 5 years before you get a good soil. So now, how many people are willing to keep composting? And it's a lot of hard work because now you have to get a compost pit. You have to, make your compost in there, mix it all up. You have to have your animals and make sure your animals are eating well, like they are grass fed, like the ones we have here on the farm. They just eat all the produce of the farm so that you have a good manure. Then you put that into the compost, put that into the soil, planting your cover crops to protect the soil. That takes a long time. So that's the thing about it's that you find that many people do not want to venture into it because they're not going to get quick returns at the end of the season. But I keep telling them, if you don't want to do that, fine, you'll get the quick returns for 5 years. How sustainable is that? Say if God gives you 80, like if God gives me 80, 90 years on this earth, and this land is mine, where will I move to after 6 years? What will I say if the farm is not producing anymore? So that was that's one of the challenges about the waiting time for building the soil. Number two, when you talk about the pests and diseases, the thing about it is that it's very difficult for you to be able to do monocropping. We tried doing the monocropping, which is what I'm talking about. Do 1 acre of one crop, harvest and make your money. But what happens if you monocrop, like what happened to me? I planted cabbages on 3 acres. When I got thrips infestation, the thrips took everything out. Because I was doing it organically because I didn't want to spray anything. And the thrips took out all my cabbages. I had to sell it to some Maasais who are feeding the cows. Poor cows, it was the drought here. The cows had to eat cabbage because there was no other greens for them to eat. So with it means you have to plant a variety of different vegetables. And what happens is, sometimes you may not get good market for one or the other, or you won't be able to get large amounts of one type of crop to give you a good return. So it means you have to be very strategic in your marketing to know that if I plant these different crops, I have a market for all of them. That's why the basket scheme works for us, because then when you're eating at home, you eat a variety of different things. So the basket scheme or selling to a shop, which sells vegetables, also works because they want a wide variety of vegetables. So that's the other thing about it. When you talk about it being viable economically, it will take a little more time, but it will be. It will be.
So, okay.
Then maybe the other thing about which is a challenge is sometimes you may not be able to grow everything all year round. You have to look at the seasons. So you have to learn how to grow some things in one season, things that do well in the drier season, that do well in the wet season. So it's difficult to maybe have the basket to have everything all year round. For example, if I have a customer who loves pumpkins, I surely cannot give it to them in the cold season. Yeah. So that's a bit one of the challenges you have to go through.
Okay. So I'm curious here. So when starting, because most of the guys even who come to me when talking a lot about organics, is that the initial cost is a bit expensive. Is that the case for you?
Yeah, it is, because you have to put in extra. I think the initial cost, the cost would be high in terms of infrastructure. So, for example, like if you go on a farm, we've had to put in some net. We have to put in some shade net, to reduce the UV and the sun rays. Sometimes you have to put in greenhouse. And then also, nowadays, like rain-fed agriculture is not sustainable. You should be able to plant all year round. So we had to put in investment in the dams and being able to get all the rainwater during the rainy season and use it. Okay. You have to invest in a pump so you can be able to pump the water. But that is, I think, a challenge that I think covers, across the board with any farmer. Like for example, water is an essential. Without water, you cannot do the farming. You can't rely only on the rains. You have to look for alternatives. So that's the same with organic agriculture. What I find at the beginning, the labor is high. Because now when you think about doing the composting, you need people to do it. And people who are also willing to try. Because sometimes you can get someone to come and work and they're like, this doesn't work. It just looks like I'm not going to see the results. You understand? Because sometimes when you use it the first way, you can see the result easily. But by the time you do your green manure, dig it back in, you have to use a lot of labor and time. So that time factor is what makes it costlier in a way, because then you don't recoup your money in the early years. You recoup it in the later years. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting. So one thing also I have to mention is your hunger for knowledge and wanting to know how things work. For a person who wants now to start organic farming, do you think there is in Kenya? Do you think there is a better support system for organic farmers, or they have to be dependent on themselves and they have to want to learn themselves?
Unfortunately, you have to do it yourself many times. I don't think we have a manual, that is for Kenya, which is something we're thinking about, just writing down all our experiences over the years. So we don't really have that's available that you can say, here it is for a Kenyan farmer. Here is a handbook that will support you with your work. So a lot of it has to be visiting farms. So you have to visit other farmers. And it can be a bit difficult sometimes because the cost of visiting some of the farms could be high. So if you're thinking about a local, farmer, a small-scale local farmer who is struggling to meet their day-to-day demands, they will not pay 2,000 shillings to visit an organic farm and learn. So you see, the knowledge is not very accessible. And then also, I think the other issue is we have very few organic farmers. So because of that, we don't have a lot of knowledge on what particular works, like what works. And a lot of the things that we've gone through, to be honest, are experiments. So we've been experimenting, but now what we're learning is we document what is working. Even what is not working, we document it. So we tell you, don't go down this road. This one works, one doesn't work. So it's up to us who are coming up and young organic farmers to actually document these experiences for the benefit of other people who want to come up. But to be honest, for now, you have to search for the knowledge, you have to read, you have to go online. Some of us are Google farmers in a way, because what else do you do? It helps. If you don't get the information out, so you Google, you experiment. Then we just tick the boxes. This works, this doesn't work. So it's a lot of experimentation and patience, which again is lacking with many farmers, especially young farmers. You'll find some of them will not want to wait. They just want the quick.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, when you read in a newspaper, someone just made $1 million from farming cabbages. So
exactly.
Why should you wait for that long?
Exactly.
Now, talking about the benefits, you've been doing things for about 7-8 years. What are some of the things that you can say you've gained from being an organic farmer?
Okay. First and foremost, I can talk about my health and the health of my family. Wow. I think that's where we should start. So
you've actually noticed the difference?
Yeah, with my health. Yeah. I mean, the gospel should start from home. I should just really have my testimony from home before I say this is what it has done. A few years ago, I had a skin condition, and it was really affecting me, you know. Like my skin would give me like issues, and I used to have like rough patches. It's, you know, and there was no cream. I saw dermatologist, and there was no cream that was assisting.
Interesting,
yeah. So what happened? Like over time, after just having the vegetables, you know, like at home we'd have vegetables 3 times a day. So we have vegetables all the time, you know. We are chewing on carrot sticks, cucumber sticks throughout the day, lunch and dinner has to have a vegetable. So with time I actually realized that my skin just improved. I didn't have to do anything about it.
Wow.
I've not seen a doctor for I don't know how many years for my skin issue anymore.
So we are literally what we eat.
You are what you eat.
Nice.
And also, maybe let me just give an example about my children. They were born with lots of allergies. And I just realized, you know, when I would cook their food with herbs and leek onion, the allergy seems to have actually gone. So we no longer have to take them to see doctors anymore. And they used to be, you know, like using you know, like they were wheezing. So they used to use, you know, the inhalers. And we've not used an inhaler for some time now.
Wow.
And they even had food allergies for protein. The allergy seems to have disappeared. I don't know what else to have said to think that it could be, but just the fact that, you know, they're only eating what the farm produces. Of course, I can't say that you eat 100% organic because my farm doesn't have everything, but we're getting there. But, you know, even, I don't know whether you read an article that was there some time back that says, you know, even if you eat organic for a week, it actually like reverses. You so, know, you've seen it,
up to 90% of the pesticides.
Exactly.
In the body,
like in the body, they actually did a test with families, and they were checking their urine like over 1 week. And even the study that was done in France about the people who are having organic food, you know, they like reduce their risk of cancer, you know, as they grew older. I don't know if you've seen that. So there's studies out there that are proving, but for me, I've actually seen, you know, it helps us also.
You've done your own science.
Exactly. Even just to see, like, even as we grow older, you know, we feel like, you know, we're still young, inside out. It helps us to maintain a good weight. Because, you know, when you're always eating vegetable. So
it would be hard for guys to guess how old you are.
Exactly. I hope so. Something else also with my children I've noticed, because they're taking a lot of vegetables. You know how it is when the kids open school, they always come back home with flus and colds they're picking from their friends. My kids are not getting it. For some reason, they're not getting sick. For some reason, they're not getting sick. They're not picking up the colds very easily. So it's very rare for them to actually have a cold. It actually takes some time. So I think because, you know, like I was talking about, you know, like last year, we had a lot of berries. We had a lot of raspberries. So we're eating them. We made a jam out of it. You know, they're very high in vitamin C. And that was over December. So I just feel like all the vitamins they took in December kept them until when they opened school in January and they were okay, you know. So eating food high in vitamins, you know, high in nutrients, it actually helps them not to fall sick. Very often. So we hardly have a sick child in our house. Allergies seem to have gone. So that's one benefit for your health. You know,
which is very important.
So not just for me, but also for my clients, the people who are buying our vegetables, or anyone who's consuming organic. It's good for your health. Something else is also good for the environment. I mean, we've talked about it over and over again. Organic agriculture is the only sustainable way of farming. That's the only farming that will be able to see us through many years to come. So that's the other thing that I find about when you consume, when you buy organic and eat organic, you're actually doing good for the environment. Because you're bringing back, you know, the ladybirds, you're bringing back frogs. Like our dam has frogs. Now it's hot, I don't know, they have disappeared. But you know, those are good signs. Our dam has frogs. Our soil has worms, you know. So you bring back the ladybirds, the good beetles, you know. So every time you consume, it means you're encouraging the farmers who are doing organic agriculture to continue what they're doing, and which is good for the environment. When you talk about agroforestry, you bring back the trees. The trees have got, you know, like fodder for the animals. The trees have got wild fruits that are very high in vitamins for the children. So, you know, remember, I still remember when we were small, you know, would climb up this mzambarau tree. I don't know what it's called in English, but the mzambarau tree. And there were so many fruits we would eat to our fill. you know. But where do you find a Mzambarau tree anymore? It's an indigenous tree, and people don't want to plant it anymore because it's going to fruit after 10 to 15 years. So most people don't want it, and yet it's very good for the children. So when we talk about organic, it's not just your health, it's also the environment. It's also good for the environment, you know. Then you talk about fixing carbon back into the soil. Organic agriculture does that for you. I mean, there are so many good uses. It keeps you fit. You've seen with our money maker when you're watering. Avoid using diesel. Using the money maker, step on it. Keep fit. Get your air pump. You know, your heart pumping. Even, you know, some things like even working on the farm and making compost. You know, it's very, you know, physical work that just gives you general health.
Wow. So those are very, very what can I say, good things that actually you have been able to experience by yourself. Another thing that let's say makes other people afraid to convert it to organic is the issue of pests and diseases. Which I've seen you doing a good job of it. What would you recommend? Nowadays we're having a lot of biopesticides. Pesticides are produced by chemical companies. But as a person who is coming to now organic farming, would you recommend them to go straight to using those kind of biological pesticides, or just have that general knowledge of how they can control pesticides by themselves?
Okay. Two things. One, when you start out, that's why I say start small, because when you start on a small kitchen garden, you'll hardly have to spray anything. Because you'll be able to deal with the pests by doing companion planting. And companion planting is basically, I'll give my classic example. Plant your cabbages with onions in between, and the onions will repel a pest called diamond bark moth, the one that creates holes. You've seen a cabbage, you know, they have many holes. And actually we realized all the time we have that success. Either plant leek onion, spring onion with your cabbages, you'll repel the pest, you don't have to spray anything, you know. And then simple things also in your planting program, make sure you planted chilies, because chilies are very good. Just need to boil them, strain and spray. And how the chilies work is just like an anti-appetite. Imagine this pest coming in the evening, when they want to munch on the cabbage, it is so chilly for them, they literally just starve to death. And when you do it that way, the natural way, you actually create a balance. Because what happens when you use the chemicals and the synthetic pesticide, what happens with time is that the pests form a resistance. I'll give an example of a whitefly. I was talking to a scientist who was just sharing with me the history of whiteflies. A long time ago, we had very little whiteflies. And what happened was, when they first got the first spray, the chemical spray for the whiteflies, it was too strong. Because they thought the stronger it is, the better it is to get rid of the whiteflies. It worked the other way around. The whiteflies got resistant. And whiteflies is one of the most difficult pests to get rid of, especially with tomatoes and people who are planting basil. Whiteflies is just a nightmare. And the more you spray whiteflies, the more it gets. Ask any farmer, it just gets worse and worse. But now when you use the other biological way, now people have been forced to use the traps, the sticky traps for the whiteflies. Because once the mature ones stick on it, of course they cannot get away anyway. So that's one of the ways people are using. People are even using things like soap and lots of water, because when you spray on them and the wings get wet, of course they can't fly, they fall down and they die. So people have been forced to go back to the natural ways of doing it. So my recommendation is read, try, do the companion planting, do crop rotation. Like how I got rid of my aphids was mainly through crop rotation, because we had sections on the farm where the beans always had lots of aphids. And what I decided, for a whole year, that whole section will only have onions. Different kinds of onions and chilies and different things. And now I'm ready to plant beans there again. After one whole year of not having, because now that whole year has made sure that the beans, the aphids, all the population, any who are hiding in the soil, any who have survived, died because they had nothing to munch on. So, you know, crop rotation, companion planting, using the locally available pesticides, even Mexican marigold grows as a weed. You just need to crush it and spray it. It will get rid of mostly the aphids and the thrips. Something else you do is physical removal. You know, I think sometimes we are addicted to spraying.
Yeah.
You know,
becomes part of our DNA.
Exactly.
See any pest?
Spray.
Yeah.
And sometimes all you have to do is just take your hand and prune the part that has the pest.
Yeah.
And then that part you go and burn it. That's another way. But that works well when you do it very early. You cannot do physical removal when you have pests everywhere. So I think the overarching thing is you must know your farm, you must be keen, and you have to give it time. So that's what I would advise. But when all fails, especially when you're doing it on a large scale, then you can move to the biological control. You have the metarhiziums, and some of them work very well. Of course, we have well-known companies in Kenya that are doing the research, and they actually have very good products. So you have to do your research to know what company is it, are they certified, you know, to show that they actually work, and have they done trials. So farmers should not be afraid. I ask personally, before I use your product,
of course,
you know, I have to ask, how was it made? Have you done trials? Show me the trial and show me how it worked. And you find sometimes, like for example, we've been struggling with spider mites. Let me give a quick example. And you find the like the biological control for spider mite doesn't deal with the spider mite found in Deya, in our area. It will work with spider mites found in other parts of Kenya.
Wow.
But you know, it had to take me to go look for a scientist, and they're available. Even if you go to Calro, I normally knock on the door. I'm like, I want to talk to a scientist. Tell me what is happening. Sometimes we're the ones who don't look for the information. You know, we have, I don't want to advertise anybody, but there are many scientists out there. So if you go there and ask, I want to talk to a scientist. And that's what I did. When he came to look at my spider mite, he said, the biological control you're using will not work on this kind of spider mite. It will only work on a different kind of spider mite. What I find is that Kenyans are not out to search for knowledge. So there's a big gap between the knowledge. We have a lot of scientists even in the university and in different organizations, and the farmer is here. There is no bridge to link science and the farmer. So you know, some of those things is what I've just come to learn through time and just search for knowledge. So now what I've done with my spider mites, you know, we have our own local concoction that we used with ginger and chili and oil and a little drop of liquid soap, and it worked. But it works also when you do it very often. Many times you want to come and spray once a week for 3 weeks, and the problem should be gone. As in, you literally want to watch the pests withering and dying before your very eyes. It's difficult to do that.
I guess it's also one of the things people don't like about
organic
using pesticides.
Exactly.
It takes too long.
It takes long. You have to wait, and you have to do it very often. And now if you buy the biological, it's going to be very costly for you. So a big part of organic agriculture is preventive. So if you do your crop rotation, if you do your companion planting, if you find your pests early and do the physical removal, all those will reduce your cost as you go on. Because then you're going to reduce the incidence of pests. Something else that will happen eventually is you'll have a natural balance. Like now, as hot as it is, we hardly have any aphids. We hardly have anything. Any pests on the farm right now, as we speak. And sometimes when you get aphids, what I realize how they're working on our farm, they're not on every crop. They will colonize one. And I don't mind. I'm like, you eat that one broccoli, but leave me the others. So you'll find only one broccoli has a lot of aphids, and the others have been spared. So because now you see, now you give nature a chance to work naturally, and then now you what happens with time? Now we get ladybirds, you know, and the ladybirds eat the aphid. So like the ladybirds are well fed. Don't eat too many aphids. Aphids can eat one broccoli, and everybody is happy.
Broccoli.
Yes.
Nice. One thing also I've noticed about your farm, you have both greenhouses, and you grow your crops in the open field. So one of the real concrete organic guys tend not to lean towards using greenhouses. What's your point on that? Because they argue it's anti-organic. You're trying to force nature to produce a bit fast. What's your take on that? Is it necessary? Is it something you can advise people also to do? Or, I'd like to know your take on that.
Okay, fine. First, you have to know about the international organic standards and what they state, what they allow and what they don't allow. when you take the standards and which are online available to everybody, you'll find that when they talk about organic agriculture, of course you have to let things grow naturally in their natural environment. But you'll find sometimes it's not always like you're not always able to do it, and like they don't allow for pests. I mean, like they don't refuse you to use barriers, especially because of the environment. So for example, for like some places where it's extremely cold and people still have to eat, or it's extremely hot and you still have to be able to produce food, what do you do in that situation? You can't say that it's because it's organic you cannot put some sort of barrier. But I understand where you're coming from, because many people, when they think about a greenhouse, they assume you're spraying in there. And the greenhouse, when you spray, the problem with the greenhouse, number one, is when you're growing any crop in there and it gets pests in, remember they cannot get out. They have got in, but getting out is the problem. So it means your spraying program has to be very vigorous. So when you spray a lot in there, it means whatever you've grown in there cannot be good for you. Even now, if you go to the market, they normally ask, is this greenhouse or is it outdoor? But then there are two sides of the coin. So there's a side whereby the pests come in, can't come out. You have to heavily spray with synthetic pesticides, so the food is very bad for you. But there's the other part where you can use the greenhouse as a barrier. One, to keep away the pests, and two, to control the, like the environment in a way. Not really to control, but you just want it to be too hot. So you have to, like you want good
conditions for
your crops to grow. So basically, that's how we use it. Because like in Limuru, when it's very cold in July and it's extremely frosty, we need to put some things in the plastic house, because that's what helps. And we're not going to spray. The only thing we have put is a physical barrier and nothing else. And then also when you have the net, when you see on our farm, our lettuce under the net is doing extremely well, because we have just reduced the sun. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because even as a person, why do you put on clothes? It's a barrier to the sun, the heat, the rain, because you want to be able to protect yourself. So in that way, according to the standards that we have in organic, there's nothing wrong, as long as, of course, you're not spraying and you're taking care. And the different things you have to do, of course. Because now when you have your greenhouse or your net house, you have to do different things to make sure you don't get pests in. Number one is to get a double door, so that when you get into one door, the other door is closed. Then that way, you're not like the pests won't be able to come in. And then you have to have a footpath, which you can disinfect the water with a simple bleach, very little bleach, put in the water, because now you're walking around the farm. And the largest carriers of pests are actually human beings. So when you have something like a foot bath, you're able to reduce pests from outside the farm to in.
Darkness is on the rising, and everyone compromising, feeding the people poison, even your organs for healing.